Hey everybody, it's Candy, aka Brown Eye Girl 69. How y'all doing? Well, this is my second video for Monday, August the 12th. And I was going through a couple of my older videos that I made about 6 or 7 months ago. And there was one where I was talking about story time. And I was talking about basically all the places Daryl and I went when we were homeless. But I started thinking about this story that I have. And I don't think I've shared it before. And honestly, I think it's the perfect time for me to share it right now. Because of how I've been saying in my last couple of videos how everything is in the mind. We create everything in our mind, and then it comes into the physical realm. So everything starts within our brain, our mind, and subconscious, and slowly manifests and makes its way out. I got actually 2 stories that I can share, and I can hope I can share them in time, about manifestation. The first one I'm going to share is how Daryl and I came to be. In March of 95, I met Kelsey's dad. And by October 2002, Kelsey's dad was no longer with me. He was passed away. I was pretty distraught. I was pretty heartbroken because he left behind me. I was 33. He was 45. And a daughter that was 3 years and 8 months old. Almost 4. We were going to try to start having another baby so Kelsey could have a brother or sister, etc., etc. We had all these plans. And then he passed away. And life changed. And I was pretty distraught, but I was young enough that I knew I could move forward from it, and recover, and that I wasn't a lost cause. And I was dating these guys that were all about just wanting to date me. They didn't want to get to know my daughter. They didn't want to meet my daughter. They didn't want to even think about integrating into, if they were in a relationship with me, how would they go about, interacting with my child. And somebody told me, I don't even know who it was, that just keep striving for what you want. Well, one night, I was in the shower, and I was thinking about Dawn, and basically I had a mental breakdown. This was probably about a year or so after he had passed away. And I'm in the shower crying, and I just scream out, God, if you exist, send me a man who has blonde hair, blue eyes, is fuzzy, he's from Chicago, he plays the guitar. Oh, and while you're at it, make him a half Jew. Half Jewish. I didn't really think about it, after I did that. I just felt like I was crying out in the moment, that I was just... And at the time that all those things was running through my head, those were the things that I was attracted to, and some of the characteristics and whatnot. I'd never been to Chicago before, so I always thought it would be interesting to meet somebody from Chicago, and so I just kind of threw out a couple of random things, A year later, I meet Daryl. And after we started getting to know one another, I found out all these things. Oh, he had blonde hair, he was blue-eyed, he was fuzzy, he was from Chicago, he played the guitar. and he was half Jewish. And I was like, I wished for you. And you came. Here you are. But I never realized how deep that really went until just a little bit ago before I started telling my story. That I did create him. I did manifest him. I manifested exactly what I wanted. So all these years later, Daryl and I are homeless, right? And we were in San Antonio, Texas. And we'd been living in this shelter for just a very short period of time. And Daryl used to say, if we could only find us a place where we could pitch a tent, not be harassed by the cops and asked to move, a place to make money, a place to take a shower and do our laundry, with a bus stop to and from. Man, I just, kind of laughed at him. I was like, yeah, right. Like, man, that's so utopian thinking, dude, They have all those things in one area without us having to travel for miles to go get a shower. Or miles to try to go make some money somewhere, I mean, yeah, right. Like, that's really going to happen. But the thing about it was, he kept talking about it. He kept talking about it. And he kept talking about it until I finally got to the point where I started believing in it myself. I started believing, you know what? If Daryl really believes in this, maybe I should really start believing in it too. Well, this was, like I said, probably February, March of 2014 when he started talking this way. And by June 1st of 2015, we were in a town in southern Oregon called Ashland, Oregon. We was able to set up a tent by this creek. And just out the back door of the creek, so to speak, was a bus stop. Across the street was another bus stop, going in the opposite direction. But there was also this place called Jackson Wellsprings, and they were just like they sound. They were like a Wellsprings, The springs that they had was fed naturally by a natural spring in the mountain, and lithium springs. It fed the water, all the minerals and stuff. It was really, really good. I mean, it kind of stunk, but it was good for your body, And after a while, you just kind of get used to the smell, and it's kind of invigorating, actually. Healing. But they had a hot tub. They had an Olympic-sized pool. They had a hot sauna, or they had a dry sauna and a wet sauna. They had their locker rooms for the men and the women, where they had a couple of showers and restrooms and sinks and lockers, and yeah, that was it. And they had a little eatery type place, and it was pretty much vegan, vegetarian. It was very good. Tea room. They always had events there. They had a gazebo, a labyrinth. But they offered showers. If you wanted to spend like for an all-day pass, it was $10 for an all-day pass. You could go in there as many times as you wanted. You could take a shower as many times as you wanted. You could enjoy the swimming pool, all the saunas, the hot tub, etc., etc. And the other thing about this place was after dark, it was clothing optional. So you would see naked people walking around. Did I participate? Yes, I did. But not when I first got there. It kind of took me a couple times before I decided to go completely clothless. But it was pretty exhilarating, freeing feeling. being able to do that. So, and they had, you could camp out there, and depending on your camping situation, depending on how much you pay, but they had tent setups, they had a car set up, they had, like RV, little tiny home, motor homes, whatever. They had all that available. They had some yurts that they could rent out. They had some dome houses that they'd built, a couple tiny houses, et cetera, et cetera. There was a lot of hiking trails. It was very beautiful. A very, very loving community. And they had a laundry facility on site as well. So the only thing else left to do was find a place to make money. Well, just down from where we'd set up tent, just down the way was this bridge that crossed over the creek that we were camped up by. And you could fly a sign there. Some people call it panhandling. I called it flying a sign. Basically, the sign would consist of many things, but most of the time it was thanks, bless you, anything's appreciated. Sometimes we'd make our own signs, and Daryl would draw on them, and one of them he made for me said, "Love wins." I flew that sign for a little while. We flew one for Halloween and put trick or treat on there, and he drew like a pumpkin on there and a little witch and a skull and crossbones or a little skull. It was pretty cool. I got pictures of it. Maybe I'll find them and share them after I post this video. So we basically had everything that we'd ever talked about. We manifested it. Proof is in the pudding. Just from those two stories, and I have many other stories throughout my life that if I was to really stop and think about certain things, certain instances, certain interactions, how those things were manifested. And it all started with thoughts in my mind, and then eventually they manifested into my physical realm. That's why we are gods, because we create. We create with our minds. We create with our consciousness. We create. And this physical body, this physical realm is just a manifestation of our thoughts, of our consciousness. We're just a conscious energy is what we are, as a conscious energy. We lowered our energy a little bit just so we could come into a physical realm to experience more. Because energy needs a physical body to be able to experience more aspects of itself than just energy. You know what I'm saying? But we are constantly creating our own environment with our thoughts that we have today. It might take a minute or two, depending, I think, on situations or things that you might need to go through or learn, certain things you might need to learn along the way before you actually get there. That way maybe you can appreciate it more. Because it felt like it was like earned a little bit, And I will say, from the time that Daryl and I started talking about creating that little space that we wanted, and community, between the time that we started talking about it and until the time we actually arrived there, we went to multiple places. And learned multiple things in that time frame. Looking back on it, it seems like a very short time frame that those things occurred. Because I would say it was from February of 2014 until basically June of 2015. So it took us like a year in 3.5, 4 months. And in that year and a half, or in that year to year and a half, 3 months, whatever it was, less than a year and a half. Like I said, we had many experiences, and we spent a long time at some other places. Like in Phoenix, we were there for like 3.5 weeks, but in San Diego, we spent October through basically May. So we were there about 8 months in Ocean Beach, California, San Diego area. And I'll tell you what, the lessons we learned in that place, I think we grew a lot there. And then that was probably one of our biggest growing spurts of being on the streets, was living in San Diego, Ocean Beach, California. We were in a very beautiful scenario, very beautiful town, but it was also loud because we weren't too far from the San Diego International Airport, which there's flights going out and coming in daily, multiple times. They had this thing in Ocean Beach called the Ocean Beach Pause, because every time an airplane flew out at the airport and flew over Ocean Beach, it was so loud because it was still pretty low in the sky. Not that high in altitude that the plane would drown out your voice. You couldn't even speak. You had to practically yell, just to try to have a conversation with somebody. So everybody would just be like, oh, OB, pause. And once the airplane was gone, or the sound had dissipated and went away, then you could carry on your conversation. But then we went to, Mount Shasta, and that was kind of like our place that we really, I think, thought about. And we had a tent, and we started kind of living, what it'd be like to live in a tent there. And we started really thinking long and hard about what we talked about. We just thought about it just all the time. Was in Mount Shasta. And then the next town we basically arrived in was Ashland, and that's where we posted up for like 2.5 years until Daryl passed away. Manifestation is real manifestation. It happens on the daily. So don't ever doubt yourself. If there's something you really want in life, you can go out and get it. The reason why you are where you are in your life, though, is because of the things that you tell yourself in your mind. Like me, should I be where I am in life at the age of 55? Well, probably not. There's probably a few other different places that I could be at this age. I could have been college educated. I could have gotten a degree. I could have been in some profession. I could have been making really killer money. But would my inside soul been able to live with it? With what come along with that profession, whatever it may have been. More than likely, it would have been in the medical field. Somewhere along the way. I actually studied to be a medical assistant, but it didn't come to fruition. Why? Because it wasn't supposed to. It wasn't, well, had something to do with what I did, but I always sort of feel like I followed my heart. In everything I've ever done, and that I might not have a lot of money. I might not have like a title behind my name, or before my name, but I have lived a life that I am grateful for, and the experiences that have allowed me to have my point of view and perception And I've been talking a lot about that lately, and how everything is in the mind. It starts in the mind, and then it projects outwardly. An open mind is the mind that's in the right sided of the brain, the right hemisphere of the brain, is open minded. The left side of the mind is more closed minded. I'll continue to probably post and talk about these things because I find them very interesting. And I think I am going to start trying to do a couple of experiments to see what I can manifest in the very near future, as well as in maybe a few months from now. But in the meantime, y'all have a great evening. I'm going to take another rip off of this, and it's still Aretha. That's the friend of mine that I've been hanging out with lately. But she's kind of getting low, and it's time for her to depart ways here in the next few days, probably. And I'll have another friend, another sister come along, and that'll hang out with me for 3-4 weeks, and that's how it goes. Maybe that's the way these strains are too, is they're just they just give us a different tapping into other realm sensations. Kind of like alcohol, different spirits. Makes you wonder if the different cannabis strains are kind of like, a good thing, for you to tap into your own spirit. For you to tap on into your own consciousness, your own mind, your own brain, because that's all that exists. All this, it fades away. It's gone. It's dust. It's gazilch. Nada. After you die. The brain does stay on for 10 to 15 minutes after the body passes. That's a proven fact through scientific studies, etc., etc. So most people probably, when they have these near-death experiences, really think that they're going to other realms or whatever. No, they're just diving into their own brain and having an experience and coming back to tell about it. That's all that's happening, because everybody's experiences are similar. But if you look at it, it's based off of their belief system, not anything else other than their own belief system. Anyways, dive deep, folks. Peace, love, hugs, nugs, and until the next time, YouTube, I'm out.